$44 billion. This is the amount of cash that one single individual managed to gut from a bank in Southeast Asia. This is the case of Miss Lan, the chairwoman of the Thinh Phat group in Vietnam. In 2022, Vietnam's GDP was about $409 billion. That means she swiped nearly 11% of the country's entire GDP. To put that in perspective, 11% of the 2022 US GDP is roughly $2.8 trillion. That's bigger than the entire economy of the UK or France. It is a crazy number. This wasn't sneaky. It was shipped right out the front door. Sound fascinating? Welcome to my channel, where, if you are confused, you will get informed. She is not a Wolf of Wall Street. She is not a tech genius. Ms. Lan's full name is Truong My Lan. Born in 1956, she is a Vietnamese woman of Chinese descent. By age 16, she already had $4,000 in hand from selling mixed cream, something believed to whiten skin at the time. She later married a Hong Kong real estate businessman named Eric Chu. Together, they founded Thinh Phat, VTP, in 1992, and increased the capital to $375 million in 2007. Initially, they started with restaurants and hotels, then expanded into real estate. In fact, the first 5-star standard restaurants and hotels in Vietnam were all owned by Ms. Lan and her husband. But here's the thing about selling soup and renting hotel rooms. It takes a long time to become a billionaire. But Ms. Lan, she had a different plan. She realized that to reach the next level, she needed to build a much larger ecosystem, a vast network that would serve as the vehicle for her financial ambitions. Now, to pull off a heist this big, you can't just do it alone. You need a machine. Over the years, VTP built an ecosystem of over 1,000 enterprises. But don't let the sheer size scare you. If you look closely, you can actually break this mess down into 4 distinct squads. First, the financial institutions, specifically banks, security firms, and finance companies. This is the VIP section, the most critical part of the ecosystem. Their main job? To act as the financial heart, pumping capital into the rest of the body. Second, the domestic companies. These are the ones you actually see. Companies operating in real estate, commerce, restaurants, and hotels. They do real business, sure, but their secret mission is to create shiny projects that act like magnets to attract investor cash. Third, the ghost companies in Vietnam. These are the worker bees of fraud. They were created for one reason: to borrow trillions from the bank, then pass the cash around to other companies in the system to cash it out. And finally, the foreign network. These companies use the foreign investor label to move money and manage the family's assets offshore. And here is a fun fact. Both Ms. Lan and her husband actually popped up in the famous Panama Papers. So this wasn't their first rodeo with offshore secrecy. These 4 groups worked together like a well-oiled machine. They supported each other with a single goal: to mobilize capital from the people and then wash that cash flow through VTP's backyard companies. Rewind to 2008, the global financial crisis. While Wall Street is burning, the Vietnamese banking sector takes a massive hit. Many banks are standing on the edge of the void. Most people looked at this and saw a disaster. Miss Lan? She saw a glitch in the matrix. She saw a clearance sale sent from heaven. This was her golden moment. Now, the laws of this reality were clear. An individual can own a maximum of 5% of a bank. But Miss Lan isn't interested in playing by the rules of the simulation. She wants control. She wants class. So she quietly activated her agents, her friends, her family, her driver, maybe even her gardener. They weren't just people anymore. They were proxies. Through them, she bought up 80 to 90% of the 3 weakest nodes in the system: the old SCB, Tin Nia, and Dang Nhát. Then came 2011, the Great Restructuring. She merged these 3 broken nodes into one massive super entity, SCB. Technically, she followed the code.
On paper, she owned less than 5%. The regulators took the blue pill. But the reality? Through a complex web of 73 different proxy companies, she held the keys to 91.5% of the entire bank. With absolute power in her hands, Truong My Lan naturally became the boss of SCB, even though she held no managerial role.
So, she owns the bank. But to run the show effectively, she needed puppets on the inside. Miss Lan planted her trusted associates in every key position to micromanage the bank's operations from A to Z. A prime example is Mr. Bui An-young. Miss Lan described him as gentle, not disruptive, and well-liked. She liked him so much that after the merger, she promoted him continuously, fast-tracking him from a branch manager all the way to the chairman of the board of SCB. With her people in place, she transformed SCB from a lawful bank into a personal tool. The goal? To siphon off depositors' money using thousands of fake loan dossiers. Now comes the actual gutting. To execute this, whenever she needed to mobilize cash, Miss Lan would hold a secret meeting with her trusted inner circle in a special room on the 39th floor of the Times Square building. Here, she would announce exactly how much money she needed, what assets would be used as collateral, and the deadline for the bank to execute it. For example, she would simply demand, "I need $400 million." Each withdrawal was assigned to a specific group within the ecosystem to set up ghost companies, create fake investment plans, and falsely inflate the value of collateral to match. On the bank system, these loans were marked with secret codes to distinguish them from regular customers. The highest priority was coded HSTT, Head Office Marketing, while lower loans were marked as project schemes. All these SCB loan contracts operated on a specific 3-no rule. No collateral appraisal, no customer appraisal, no loan plan appraisal. Although this was against regulations, for Miss Lan, once the info was received, SCB leaders ordered the paperwork to be perfected to disperse money as fast as possible. To make this run smoothly, she established thousands of legal entities and hired thousands of individuals to act as legal representatives, signing loan dossiers and collateral papers to legitimize the withdrawals. To dodge the state bank's radar, she ordered SCB staff to transfer the dispersed money through ghost companies, moving it in circles around the ecosystem and finally withdrawing cash to cut off the money trail. Now, you might be asking, where were the regulators? Did nobody notice the bank was empty? Oh, they noticed. The State Bank of Vietnam sent an inspection team of 24 members, led by a woman named Miss Do Thi Nhan. She looked at the books, she saw the fraud, she saw the bank was technically dead. But then, she was handed some styrofoam boxes. You know, the kind you put fruit in. Except these boxes weren't filled with mangoes. They were filled with $5.2 million in cash. That is the single largest bribe in the history of Vietnam. I don't care how good the fruit is. If someone hands you a box that weighs 50 pounds, you know it's not lunch. She took the money, she cooked the reports, and the party continued. The party didn't last long. This whole sophisticated cash siphoning operation finally blew up when customers showed up to withdraw their money, and the bank simply didn't have enough cash in the vault to pay them. Just like that, everything came to light. According to investigators, the total amount of money moved, drained, and hidden through SCB added up to about $44 billion, nearly 93% of the bank's total lending during that period. In other words, for every 100 loans SCB handed out, 93 went to people tied to Ms. Lan. And when that giant bubble burst, around 36 to 42,000 people became victims. Bondholders, investors, depositors, all pulled into the chaos. Those 25 bond issuances alone caused losses of roughly $1.2 billion. SCB reported that its total damage could reach about $30 billion, while prosecutors confirmed at least $20 billion in losses that can no longer be recovered.
And that's just the part we can count. Behind the scenes were thousands of loans, thousands of shell companies, and more than 1,000 debts that are basically gone for good. The fallout wasn't just about money. It crushed trust, wiped out savings, and left tens of thousands of families stuck inside what people now call the $44 billion earthquake, the biggest financial shock in Vietnam's banking history.
These illegal activities left SCB financially crippled, facing total insolvency, and severely impacted the reputation of the banking system. So, what was the final verdict? In 2024, Truong My Lan and 85 accomplices stood trial. The main charges included embezzlement, violation of banking regulations, and bribery. Others were prosecuted for abuse of trust, negligence, and receiving bribes. The court ordered Ms. Lan and her group to compensate and return billions of dollars to SCB. Other defendants were also required to reimburse appropriated funds. The case is still expanding, with further investigations into illegal bond issuances and money laundering. As for Ms. Lan herself, well, she received the death penalty. It marked the end of a glorious dynasty, but one that was deeply harmful to society. And that closes the file on the 44 billion dynasty, a tragic end to a story of unchecked greed. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe to support the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.